McDonald's employees, what is the worst thing that has ever happened in the PlayPlace? Some freaking kid climbed all the way to the top slide and took his goddamn pants off and slid down the slide. Problem is, he shat the whole way down. There was a freaking trail of crap spanning the entire second half of the slide. We only found out because some other freaking kid slid down that slide and came out covered in chunky liquid crap and crying uncontrollably. A lady left her 2 young children in the PlayPlace for hours while she went to the thrift store shopping. Eventually a nice old woman came and told me they were there and didn't seem to have a guardian present. So of course I called the cops. When she finally returned she admitted that she does it a few times a week. Another time I was getting ready to lock up for the night and I noticed smoke coming from under the door of the PlayPlace. I was quite surprised to find 4 older men smoking pot and cigarettes sliding and giggling. Not an employee, but I found a pair of rusty scissors in the ball pit when I was 6. Gave them to a staff member and got free ice cream. It was a bribe to keep you quiet. An old couple were with their grandchild. They sat at one of the tables that had the tubes running over it. Kid pee in the tunnels above, pee dripped down all over the old people and their food. I'm not an employee but I swear to God whenever I went into one of those tubular germ factories as a kid there were always mysterious yellow-green puddles. Or at least the faint smell of pee and whatever crappy disinfectant the poor employee who had to squeeze himself into the thing had used. Still went in them though. Our PlayPlace was replaced with video games and a giant crawl and Happy Meal box quite a few years back. It's all in a glass room. That place is disgusting. Children leave food in there, puke, and even go to the bathroom. Also, quite a few employees have hooked up in the giant Happy Meal box. It sounds like one huge petri dish full of disgusting surprises. I will now tell the story of the best thing I ever saw in Playland. This was at Burger King, not McDonald's. In the South these things are all simply called Playland. A few years ago me and my kids were eating at Burger King and of course we had to eat in Playland because kids. Burger King had at this time installed talking garbage cans in there. It was probably intended as a way to get kids to throw their own trash away so employees wouldn't have to do it so much. Whoever designed those things knew nothing about children. When you put trash into the talking trash can, pushing your garbage in past that plastic spring-loaded flap which says thank you on it, the trash can would say thanks for the garbage or something like that. You know, things a talking trash can would say. Any parent could tell you what would happen next. Children know that trash cans cannot actually speak. So each successive child, having been congratulated by the trash can, would do the obvious thing and put his head inside the trash can to see who is in there. Then the spring-loaded thank you flap would swing shut and grab the children by the neck in the manner of a squirrel trap, and they could not get their heads back out, and there would be flailing and muffled screaming, and they would have to be rescued by their mom. This happened over and over and over. Kids of a certain age will put their heads in a talking trash can even if they just saw the last kid get garroted by it. It kind of makes them even more curious. Just one kid after another getting choked by this evil instrument of torture. Thanks for the trash. It was the best thing I have ever seen. Kids leave, new kids take their place. New victims for the magic trash can. I never got tired of it. Next time we went to Burger King they weren't there anymore but I hope someday they will come back for another try. I want to see the face of the brilliant guy in corporate who thought of this when he is shown a video of children getting their heads stuck in the trash can. I'm not an employee, but my aunt got stuck in that spiral slide once. Yeah, my aunt. She was like 40 at the time. I'm not really sure why she decided to go down the slide, but she did, and she didn't fit. They had to shut the PlayPlace down and call somebody to pull her out. Had this fat kid get stuck in it and when I was sent in to pull him out, I got sued for reckless endangerment of a child and inappropriate contact with a child. I seriously wanted to punch the parents. Suckers got me fired and held up in court for 3 months. I misread that as punch him in the parents, which is a phrase I'm going to start using. Kids literally take their Happy Meals in there and forget. Heavier things are always at the bottom. Cheeseburgers. Then there is a layer of chicken McNuggets and such. 50% of the ball pit is in fact edible. 25% balls. 25% poop. I'm not an employee, but when I was a kid I was climbing in and out of the PlayPlace. I was getting pretty tired, so I decided to take a little break inside one of the tubs. I noticed a whole bunch of flies and decided to follow them. Turns out there was a dead iguana that was rotting away inside the tube. I was crawling over it the whole time without realizing it. This thread is making me feel better. One time my son pooped his pants in the play area. When I realized it, I went up and cleaned it up. Before I was done, someone told the staff about it. So I'm up there cleaning up poop and see the McDonald's employee. I said, "Don't worry about it, I got it all," and he said, "Thanks." That's the first time that's happened. Feeling embarrassed, I said, "The first time a kid has pooped on the playground?" "Oh heck no." He said, "That happens about once a week. This is the first time a parent has cleaned it up themselves." That was enough to make me change my mind on how much McDonald's employees deserve to get paid. Sheesh. A kid had the runs in one of those cars at the top. Well, he thought it'd be a good idea to take the slide down to tell his mom he crap himself. I had to go up in there, clean out the car with a crap ton of rags and a bucket of sanitizer. Then I had to clean the trail of smears that went down the slide. I quit immediately after that when I learned I wasn't supposed to be the one cleaning up crap like that. Fesses are a biohazard. I remember a news story that involved a 13-year-old boy violating a 5-year-old girl in a PlayPlace once. It was incredibly sad. He was caught when his parents saw wanted signs showing images of him from the security tape. They turned him in. It started as a fairly average Monday morning. Began my shift as usual and watched over the kids. For the most part there weren't too many incidents. A couple of kids got into a small fight, but we usually don't step in unless it's anything serious. Anyway, it was getting kind of late, and I only had an hour left. Two kids got into a pretty big argument. Lots of hair pulling, pushing, etc. I was feeling pretty tired that day, probably still hungover from the night before. Didn't really bother to do anything because it looked like their parents noticed anyway. One of the kids was fairly older than the other one, and the mother of the younger kid was pretty pissed off that her kid was being bullied. The mother of the older kid was your typical lazy parent who doesn't give a crap about what their child gets up to and insisted it wasn't her problem. Now, the mother of the younger kid looked extremely pissed off before they had even begun to talk. I could visibly see her face growing redder and redder as each second passed. She told the other mom that she should bother to raise her kid properly, and said that her daughter should give her child an apology. The mother just shrugged it off and turned away. Apparently the mother of the younger girl didn't like that, because within seconds, she had grabbed her by the hair and slammed her face into one of the plastic slides. The rest of the kids simply watched in horror as the mother proceeds to push the woman headfirst into the ball pit while desperately trying to kick her in the head. The last thing I saw, she jumped up and tried to elbow drop her pro wrestling style. Quickly got my manager, who called the police. The mother was thrown into the police car, and I'm pretty sure they had to get an ambulance for the other women. Needless to say, the PlayPlace was closed early that day. They didn't reopen it for almost a week. Not at McDonald's, but I worked at an indoor playground where we had a big version of the PlayPlace complete with a ball pit and inflatables. A 7-year-old was running and pooping at the same time, leaving a long streak of half-solid excrement across the arena. This was made worse by the fact that we were having a dance party, which resulted in little mud tracks leading to every part of the facility. Another time we had our toilets back up due to a clog in the main line. When the plumber opened up the drain to check it out, a crap geyser proceeded to erupt about 3 feet in the air and flooding the bathroom with about 2 inches of standing sewage. Not to mention this was the women's bathroom. When asked to clean it, both employees quit. Being manager, I was left to deal with the aftermath. I have countless stories involving every form of human excrement at this place. We even had a death occur when a mother smothered her baby while breastfeeding. After that, employees always rumored about the spirit of the baby, which would cry at night if you stayed long enough and would move around toys. We had all of these incidents caught on camera, but I no longer work there for obvious reasons. Kid vomited and proceeded to pick up fistfuls of chunks and throw them at other children, who then vomited. We closed the PlayPlace for like 2 weeks to have the whole thing heavy duty cleaned and sterilized by a hire out company. A woman got pissed off that her kids couldn't play. She yelled, "I'll show you clean," ripped the hazard tape off the door, broke the lock on the door, and proceeded to put her finger down her throat and barf all over. This was right before I quit. The last thing I heard, she was trying to sue our owner, stating that the chemicals in the PlayPlace, which she broke into, made her so sick she was hospitalized. Not at MCD's, but I worked at a Discovery Zone type place in high school. Once a month on Sunday nights we would host middle school dances. Kids between 12, 15 or whatever could show up and do whatever they wanted without little kids around. There was always a pretty decent turnout. I saw the following things: kid getting a handy in the laser tag maze, kid getting a handy in the ball pits, pretty much just handies everywhere. For a while a kid from the ghetto JH ran regular dice games that took place on one of the pool tables. I generally let this go unused. Condoms in the quarter token return in every single arcade game. Girl puked down the slide leading to the ball pit. We figured out she was drunk and she got arrested. Girl and a boy came out wearing each other's clothes after a game of laser tag. Unrealted but my favorite. There was this slightly chubby, awkward nerdy looking kid there by himself, not really socializing. I think his parents made him come. I gave a group of girls a ton of tokens, free pizza coupons, free entrance passes, etc. to go talk to him. By the end of the night you could see him out of his shell. He continued to come to the dances and was a social machine after that. I like to think I changed that kid's life somehow. I can recall one time our shake machine wasn't running well. The shakes would come out very slow. They took forever to fill the cup. It was like that for quite a while. When they finally brought someone in to take it apart, he discovered a cockroach stuck in the shake tube. All of the shakes we had been serving were filtered through that roach. Okay, so not in the PlayPlace, but still. Man, what a way for that cockroach to go though. Not an employee, but once I looked underneath the floor of the PlayPlace and found a bunch of used condoms. I was only a kid so I didn't know what they were at the time. My friend used to work at McDonald's. He says that once, a kid pooped in the tubes above where people ate, so everyone smelled poop when they ate. It was found a couple hours later and he had to get rid of it. My sister had to clean pee that went from the top of the slide to the bottom. She started at the top like an idiot and lost her footing. Seems like the smart choice to me. Better than starting at the bottom with pee dripping down onto you the whole time. Not an employee, but once when I was still a wee lad I was at my local McDonald's PlayPlace. After eating my kid's meal, I had climbed to the highest possible part of the structure, which happened to be pretty tall even as an adult, and sat in the little square observation part with all of the circular windows to look out of. In the far corner of the tiny room there was a huge puddle of some liquid substance that at the time I simply thought was discolored water. It was most likely some kid's vomit. To this day I shudder to think of how someone would ever clean that up. The tubes were tiny. After eating my kid's meal, you make it sound like you have a child and you ate their meal. Not worst, actually best. I got my first boob action in the helicopter at the top of the PlayPlace in grade 8. Best night ever. It was one of those nice ones PlayPlaces that had Gamma Boys and a huge bull pit. Some little kid crap in the twisty slide, but it's in the middle of the slide. The kids at the top couldn't see it, so kids would slide down unknowingly into a makeshift crap end slide and get crap on their backs, face, back of their head, hands, etc. It was horrendously disgusting. Worst day of life. I imagine by the end the tunnel had a brown stripe going all the way down. I used to work at McDonald's with a bunch of friends in my neighborhood. Every time someone puked in the PlayPlace they always chose one friend to clean it up. We used to make fun of him all the time for that. Someone's gotta do the chally work. 17-year-old McDonald's worker here, a drunk lady, probably in her 30s, came in and puked at the top of the slide. We found her passed out at the top following the trail of puke that traveled down it. The ghost of Christmas future. One time, a fat kid, not just a kind of chubby, but morbidly obese 300 pounds 12-year-old decided he wanted to go in. I see him go in. About 5 minutes later, I hear crying, coming from the tubes. Apparently the kid got stuck. One time I was working the late shift on a Saturday and I start to see people leaving the play area in a hurry, so I poke around and try and see what's going on. When I finally get a good look I see a man that looks like an average Joe walking around the PlayPlace. I did a double take and saw a very large knife on his side, and he wasn't trying to hide it. He was pacing back and forth and it looked like he was talking to himself. So 16-year-old me was freaking out. So I called the police, then got my manager, and she instructed all of us to stay in the back. It was real late and close to closing, so we weren't worried about customers while she handled it. Soon the cops show up, get the man in cuffs and take him away. I wasn't in any real danger, but that was the weird, creepiest thing that happened. Well, until this crackhead looking mother sucker busts open the doors and starts yelling about how we need to let him use our phone. I worked at Burger King in high school, so basically the same issues. My worst experience, however, had nothing to do with the kids. I had a co-worker who was trying to get me to get intimate with him by threatening to expose that I was no longer a virgin to everyone at school and work. He would spend all night talking to me on the headset, asking me to go down on him or else. I was really upset and unnerved, but I was just counting the minutes until I could leave work and get away from him. One night I was cleaning the tunnels and then took the final trip down the slide, only to slide right into two hands groping me on the insides of my thighs. I immediately went to the supervisor on duty and told her what was going on. He wasn't actually fired for the inappropriate touching or the harassment. We were just put on separate shifts so we didn't have to run into each other. A week later he threw a soda on the truck of a male co-worker who also knew the same sensitive information about me but wasn't going around threatening to expose me over it. That is when he got fired. TL. DR. And welcome. Vulgar groping of your co-workers at Burger King is okay, but pouring soda on a team member's vehicle is a terminable offense. I'm not an employee, but when my brother and I were younger I dared him to take a crap under the slide. Then we put some rocks over his crap. Every time we went back there we'd visit his crap. One time when we lifted the rocks the crap had turned white. After a few years when we went back it had gone and we were both a little sad. Some say the crap had lived under that rock beneath the slide most his whole life, grew old and white there, until eventually, he figured he wanted to see the world. He packed up one Sunday morning and left. Some say he's still out there, maybe in the bull pit, maybe in that rich neighbor kid's pool, floating like nobody but a crap can. Not me but my sister. Not McDonald's but Chick-fil-A. One night, she was cleaning the play area after the store had closed and locked the doors. She said the lights were off in the play area. Some Chick-fil-A's have them. This one obviously did, and that she had to go wipe down the area. As she was crawling to the highest part of the area, she spotted a little black kid, about 5 or 6 years old, with a stack of books. She told me that he said his mommy said to stay here and read your books. Needless to say this poor boy went to the police station and they took care of trying to find his mother. When I worked at McDonald's, hired the 4th of June 1999, quit the 31st of October 1999. That was a long 4 months. Our closing manager would regularly let some high school kids stay later than the lobby closing time. I was 16 at the time, and the manager was in his early 20s, and obviously didn't give a crap. Oftentimes we would just pick up a few cases of beer when we were closing on a weekend, and we'd all just frick around instead of working. This is one reason we would be there till 2:30 AM closing usually. So let's see, where to start. We would take the food trays and sit on them, and go down the slide. You go super fast, and we would see who could get the furthest distance on exit. I know of at least 3 occasions that someone had fricked in the ball pit. Said people who were fooling around and or fricking in the ball pit usually lost things in there, i.e. cell phones, condoms, packs of cigarettes, half-drank beers. See previous comment about drinking after closing time. One kid brought his BMX bike into the PlayPlace and proceeded to try to grind a rail on the seating in there. The 1 or 2 tables for parents to sit and eat while kids played. He fell and split open his head pretty good. He left the place, still bleeding, not wanting to call anyone because he was also drinking at the time. He was maybe 16 or 17. Above mentioned manager was later fired when someone forgot to clean up after the previous night closing antics. Opening manager store manager found a half a bottle of Absolute and 3 cans of beer in the ice chest the next morning, and so ended the late nights at McDonald's. On a side note, one guy who worked there would go into the walk-in freezer and smoke a bowl before every children's birthday party we had to host. Not even sure if they still do that kind of thing there, because, in his own words, It's the only way I can deal with the fricking brats. Years to the dates. Puts things into perspective a bit. Hard times at the PlayPlace. Got a call from Central Dispatch. They asked me to check in a tripped alarm at the local Mickey D's. It wasn't a big PlayPlace, only a 2 on the Ronald scale, but I had a feeling something significant was just waiting to happen. The big surprise, though, was that nothing happened until I looked into the double Immelman exterior slide. A small girl, only about 5 or 7 years old, clutching a greasy takeout bag. It looked heavy, plump, full of the unknown. I took the girl inside to the kids section and asked her a couple questions. She was homeless, got forced to rob the place by her street friends. Thought it would be an easy job. When I finally looked into the bag to see what the loot was, I was taken aback. McNuggets. Patrolling the McDonald's almost makes me wish for a nuclear winter. That is heartbreaking. I hope that little girl is somewhere better now. I worked at a McD's way back in the day, 13 years ago, and before I started, a kid climbed on top of the equipment, fell off, and broke his arm. A photographer came to the store to take photographs of the equipment for the pending lawsuit. The store manager gave the okay, and the guy went out to do what he came to do. The owner of our franchise came in, found out that the guy was outside on the playground, and went out to confront the guy. After a few heated comments, the store owner starts to shove the photographer, telling him to get the heck off my property with kids watching. All these kids came running into the store, screaming and crying, while parents tried to dodge the now full-out fist battle on the playground. 2 grown men, screaming and punching while kids were screaming like Jesus was on them. I didn't last long at that job. Not the PlayPlace, but the bathroom. I used to work at a record store that was right next door to a McDonald's that my friend managed. One day I go in there for an Egg McMuffin and I run into her. She was obviously upset about something and I asked her what was wrong. Apparently, every day for a solid week, someone had been taking all of the paper from the women's bathroom, was bringing it to the men's, using all of the paper from the men's and building a massive paper nest in the middle of the bathroom floor. When I say took all of the paper, I'm talking about all the toilet paper, hand towels, protective seat paper, etc. Everything. Then to top it off, pun intended, this person would take a big olay massive greasy crap right in the middle of the nest. Then they would leave it there and vanish without trace. I dubbed the person the crap bird bandit. The McDonald's employees had spent a week trying to figure out who it was but were having trouble because they have so many regulars. My friend said it was highly likely one of 3 bums that came in daily. Anyways, I came in a few weeks later and the employees were all on high alert because they still haven't caught the person or knew who it was. This crap bird was elusive. Eventually, some time passed and she came into the record store to tell me they finally caught the guy in the act. It ended up being some relatively normal guy in his early 20s that came in every morning for breakfast. Apparently, everybody knew this guy and the employees even filled him in on the details of the hunt for him. When the dude was caught, he ran out with his pants around his ankles and they never saw him again. I told this story to a friend a few years later and he told me a story that happened to him at the same McDonald's. He went to use the bathroom once, walked into a bum taking a shower underneath one of the sinks. The bum had clogged the sink drain with paper, let it fill and overflow over the sides creating a makeshift shower. The bum was sitting on the floor underneath the sink letting the water drip down on him. My buddy walked in, made eye contact and the bum just whispered, "SHHH. Don't tell nobody." He just noped right the frick out of there. Not McDonald's but I used to work at a Chuck E. Cheese's. Had a 12-year-old boy think it would be a good idea to fap in the sky tubes. He also apparently thought that the end piece that was made of clear plexiglass was a good place to do so. Not to mention the fact that there was a 4-year-old girl up in the same compartment. When I confronted the parents about it, the mother told me that he's been doing that for the last few weeks and it's his way of expressing himself. I am not a McDonald's employee, nor have I ever been. However, I have a scarring memory from childhood behind in the PlayPlace at McDonald's. I was crawling around in the tubes when I came upon a large steaming human turd. I told my mom and she had me tell one of the employees at the counter. That's when I became too old for McDonald's PlayPlace. I'm a little late and I'm not an employee, but I have a memory from when I was probably like 3 or 4 years old. I was playing in the ball pit at the McDonald's by my house and I reached down and put my hand in some poop. If that happened to me now, I'd probably flip out and start crying and take shower after shower after shower, and the showers would never start, but little me just wiped the poop off on a ball, moved spots, and continued playing in the ball pit like nothing happened. I worked at a McDonald's 6-7 years ago, and once a child peed at the top of the PlayPlace. The stairs are split level the whole way up, so it became a cascading waterfall of urine. This is where things get weird. McDonald's is an equal opportunity employer, and we had hired a mentally handicapped lady to clean the dining area. She was the first employee alerted to the situation by one of the children. This mentally handicapped lady immediately scolded the child and told him to clean it up and gave him a bar towel. This child did as he was told and began crying as he became drenched with pee. He ran out of the PlayPlace and explained to his mother what had transpired. The mother, furious, stormed to the counter to demand a manager. She inevitably prepped to sue, and McDonald's settled out of court for a large, undisclosed amount. The cleaning lady was dismissed. I should also mention that yours truly had to clean the PlayPlace in the end. Frick. If I've learned anything from this, it is that I will never let my children, if I ever have one, near a McShit poop place. I'm probably late for this, but I used to work for a McDonald's that was right off a highway. That fact is relevant because we never had less than 25 kids in our PlayPlace. I worked as a cashier during my stay, being literally the only person who was small enough to fit inside the tubes. I was asked to clean up a mess inside the rocket. Thinking it a rapper food mess, I was perfectly okay with cleaning it up. Boy, was I wrong. A kid who was still in diapers thought it was a great idea to take off his diaper and proceed to crap all over the front of the rocket. There were handprints, pictures, and just giant smears of the stuff everywhere. Apparently another kid found this masterpiece and vomited. I grabbed 6 pairs of gloves, 2 dust masks, paper towels, and enough cleaning solution to clean the bottom of a garbage truck to first day of use. I didn't work at that McDonald's much longer after that. I have a happy story. After hours we turned our PlayPlace slide into a water slide. We filled up a bucket with soap from the back, and then dumped it down the slide. We then stuck trays under our asses and slid down. One guy went down with a bucket on his head, a stack of trays under his butt, and one under each of his elbows and under each heel. No part of his body touched the slide, and the speed he was going when he was at the bottom was enough to launch him into the wall about 12 feet from the bottom of the slide. Slid in tailbone first, fricked his back up for a few weeks. Oh, right, it's supposed to be a happy story. Well, it doesn't involve poop, so that's happy, right? My McDonald's didn't have a PlayPlace, but this mentally handicapped man had extreme explosive diarrhea while he was waiting in line. It fell out his pant legs and he tracked it all over the lobby. It had to have been at least 1 L of diarrhea. Thankfully, I was fired from that crap hole, LOL, for stealing a sausage McMuffin. I was on break, and it was past breakfast time. They were seconds away from being thrown out. I didn't pay for it. It would have cost me 48 cents. I laughed at the owner's face when he yelled, "You should have just grabbed my wallet and stolen my money out of my pocket." I laughed at him, went out to my car, grabbed 48 pennies, walked back inside and dropped them at his feet. Oh, and that was the day I had gotten my manager packet to become a manager. But the pay would have been like $9.00 an hour before tax, so that much responsibility clearly wasn't worth the time. Sorry about the rant. I just freaking hate McDonald's. A little boy's father came up to me to inform me that a little boy, possibly his son, information not given, just whipped it out and pee all over the slide. I went and told my manager, who shrugged it off for about 20 minutes and then finally made the new girl go with him to clean it up. I was glad cause she was a bee. She got fired 2 weeks later. When they returned, the new girl told me that my manager cleaned it up. But then the father of the little boy came up to tell me that another boy was now peeing on the slide, so me and the new girl went over to check out the situation, and then what we saw was quite peculiar. I assume that the first boy who peed on the slide got a couple of his friends and they were all at the top peeing down the slide, making a steady stream of pee come down the slide. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, Check another video. Bye for now.